Nomad Podcast.
Okay. So Julian, thank you for doing this with me.
Sure.
My first question for you is, what inspired you to start your own Bitcoin only firm? Because you guys are Bitcoin only, right? And what is different from any other than, there is in the space? I mean,
So the start of the company basically was, it started from a problem, from my own problem that I had and problems that many people in my kind of surroundings had, friends of mine, family, colleagues, etc. I was into Bitcoin for quite some time already. 2015, I discovered Bitcoin, and then 2018, 19, when Relay started and the idea kind of started to come. It was really a big pain point was for normal people to get into Bitcoin. A lot of people were interested in Bitcoin, but it was hard for them to find an easy app where with a couple of clicks or a couple of minutes they could just buy Bitcoin, right? A lot of them wanted, but then 9 out of 10 didn't end up doing it, unfortunately, because it was too complicated. And this was really like, I felt like very strongly about this. I felt like this is the best savings technology. This is the best money human beings have ever invented. But 9 out of 10 people who want to buy it cannot buy it. I wanted an easy way for people to buy it, to hold it, to save in Bitcoin. And so that was one. And then two, also my own problem, because I wanted to auto invest, like have a DCA plan, $50 a week, $100 a month, whatever, just on a regular basis. Stack stats, right? And this was also something that wasn't really possible. There was no service for that. So I combined these two kind of ideas of having a very easy mobile app that everyone can use to buy Bitcoin, hold the Bitcoin, like the seed themselves, and set up a savings plan. So basically solve both of these problems. And now what the difference is, as you asked the second part of the question, to other like services where you can buy Bitcoin, there's a lot. Like nowadays you can buy Bitcoin with banks, with brokers via ETF. You can buy, there are a lot of crypto exchanges, even fintechs like Robinhood, they sell Bitcoin, and neobanks like N26, and there are also other Bitcoin only brokers. What's really the difference for us, and we combine three things that no one else combines. We are Bitcoin only. There are no shitcoins, nothing else, no distractions, just Bitcoin only. We're self-custodial, so 100% like people hold their own keys. We never hold funds on behalf of the customer. And we are Swiss made. So we're regulated and based in Switzerland, Swiss quality, the Swiss reputation, which is very valuable in like fintech world. And I think that's why more than 100,000 people now trust us for their Bitcoin business.
Okay, that's cool. When we talk about that, buying Bitcoin it's easy nowadays. It's not the hardest thing anymore. But it's also a risk nowadays, because when we talk about that everyone is at risk or at their own risk when investing into Bitcoin, how do you approach this? How do you tell your customers what to do, what not to do? No shitcoins, buy only Bitcoin. That actually wasn't my intention, but just how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's really about education and about making people understand, even when they're very, very early still in their Bitcoin journey, like they maybe only heard about it from the media or from a friend of them, and then they're getting into it from the beginning. It's important to make them understand what Bitcoin really is, because they think it's very volatile. It's something that can go up and down. It's very speculative. It's something that might go away. It's something that is it makes them feel very insecure. So very important is to make them understand what it is. It's savings technology. It's a digital asset. It's a digital property. It's digital gold. It's long-term savings. You don't think about it as buy today and sell tomorrow, but it's a long-term, like think about it as digital gold, which you want to hold for your whole life, ideally. And it's very different from altcoins. It's just not the same. There are 2.4 million altcoins out there, and all of them are not even close to Bitcoin. It's just a different category. Bitcoin is digital gold, it's savings technology, and it's to store your wealth, store your purchasing power for a very long time, that you can hold yourself, that is censorship resistant, that is decentralized, that is independent and neutral, and all the other cryptos are not. So that's the first step. What is Bitcoin? Why is it useful for me to store my wealth? Because with all the other crap like fiat currency and all the other assets, it's not possible for a long time. And why is it very different to crypto assets? And then once they understand that, then they have less fear. They feel much more secure about, okay, I think this is the right decision. And then we still say like we're not as extreme as, for example, Michael Saylor, who says like take out a loan and like go
No.
140% all in. No, we're like just start small. You know, even 1% of your wealth, or even let's say 5% of your monthly income, put it into Bitcoin on the long term. Just do DCA savings plan and just hold. And then no one has ever lost money or lost value if he or she has held Bitcoin for more than 4 years, ever. If you hold it for 4 years, you're always like plus. You always gained purchasing power, and that's very very powerful. And so we really advocate for this long term perspective. And then once people understand that, they can sleep well. They have peace of mind that they are not insecure anymore about it.
So what opportunities do you see for a worldwide Bitcoin adoption then? I mean, if the whole world basically would adopt Bitcoin, that would be great, but it will never happen. It's a huge thing. It's like it's a you could say charade, but I'm going as far that it's also a dream. But what opportunities do you see then for Bitcoin adoption, especially in conferences or in meetups or like we did yesterday where we went to the bar and had some wine and some food. So
I mean, I think it will be very, very widely adopted. It might, like you said, maybe not the whole world. I mean, define. I mean, the internet in the 90s, probably no one thought that it would be
oh yeah,
globally adopted, and now not everyone has access to the internet, but like in Western countries it's more than 95% that has a smartphone, and like very close to 100% that has somehow access to the internet. So but not everyone, is true, but I think we can get to a very very large amount, big majority, like much more than 50%, probably closer to 70, 80, 90% of the people and the companies that will adopt Bitcoin as a digital asset, as a digital form of store of wealth, digital capital, digital property. Um, and this will happen in very various ways, from retail investors that have $100 a month that they want to save long term, and maybe someday buy a house with it or a car with it. They will adopt it as like savings technology. Then some Bitcoin freaks like us at the conferences, we are adopting it as medium of exchange and buying beers and wines and coffees with it. And not everyone will do that, but many people will use Bitcoin like that. Then a lot of institutions, whatever, hedge funds or pension funds or family offices, they will maybe adopt it indirectly through owning it through a custodial platform or an ETF, but they somehow have access to Bitcoin. I mean, you can go as far as MicroStrategy is now in the MSCI
yeah,
index, and almost every investor in the world owns a part through ETF or whatever, some index owns part of it. So every investor basically in the world owns a bit of Bitcoin indirectly through
directly.
MicroStrategy. So that's also a form of adoption. And then companies, SMEs, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet so that their reserves are kind of the purchasing power of their reserves are protected on the long run. That's, I think, a huge thing. So you see, like from small to big investors, private to companies, through other institutions, it will be adopted more and more. And because network effect is so important, I think it will just suck in more energy and more people and more talent and more capital. So as with the internet, it will just spread, keep spreading around the world, and the adoption will move forward until I believe we will come pretty close to 100%. Probably never 100%. It's an ideal, but we'll get close.
99 probably.
Maybe.
That's actually funny because I remember when I saw it was like a New York Times front page. The internet will never be a thing. Then next to it, Bitcoin will never be a thing. The internet now is a thing, Bitcoin as well. So who knows? Maybe
Totally. I mean, in 1997, I think we
yeah,
had around 100, 200 million internet users. And now we have around 100, 200, it's hard to say, like actual Bitcoin users. So we are around the same as that. And like in Switzerland in 1997, only like 20% of the Swiss people like had access to the internet, were using the internet. You could not even send a picture
Yeah.
via email. It was not. It didn't really work yet, but the first early adopters were there. Right. 10 years later, 2007, I think it was Swisscom, one of the biggest Swiss companies that are now a leader in like internet services, etc. They said it's not worth for us to like make a mobile app and like be connected and sell stuff online through e-commerce. The Swiss railway company in 2007 also said like it's not worth for us to make smartphone app for people to buy tickets
No,
for
yeah.
their trains. Like the internet is not really going to be the place where people buy and sell stuff. Like it was 10 years later, and the adoption was very high already, probably like 50% in Switzerland. But still, these very big companies still were in denial. And now, obviously, in 2017, another 10 years later, it was like 95% of the people had smartphone and internet and everything. It was a thing. It was more than a thing. It was like adopted. And so with Bitcoin as well, it will just take time, maybe another 1 or 2 decades. We're still in the early innings, but I think we will follow a very similar path like with the internet, because like the internet, Bitcoin is also an open source protocol. It's also independent, it's global, it's decentralized. It's a very similar thing, just not for information like the internet, but for value, right?
So okay. Um, I have two more questions. Then I'm done. So what problems do you see or face every day with telling people about Bitcoin or implementing Bitcoin? Because it's not easy that bar over there, right there. Just, I mean, they probably accept Lightning or Bitcoin, but if you go to a bar and say, "Do you accept Bitcoin?" most of them will probably say no, and then there are the lucky ones which will say yes. What problems do you see with telling them that they should accept Bitcoin as a Lightning or as a payment system or Lightning as a payment system?
I don't think we should go around and like tell people what to do. Like you
Mm-hmm.
should accept Bitcoin, etc. Either it will be useful for them, they sooner or later will find out, or not. And that's, I think, the problem that currently for many use cases it's not really usable yet because it's just too early.
Mm-hmm.
The tech is not as advanced as it should be. Like with the example I gave before, where in 1997 people could use email and it was useful for them to exchange quick, short text and information. Instead of sending a letter, they would send an email. That was very useful. So a lot of people, or some people at least, adopted it. But then for sending images or videos, it was just not. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
work. So that's the same with buying a coffee today. With Bitcoin, it doesn't really work yet. It will in 10 years, 100%. And then more and more people will do it, and more companies, shops will accept it because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more convenient, and they get actual money that doesn't lose purchasing power for less fees than like accepting credit card, etc. So it will. We all know here in the conference, for example, that in 10 years this will be a thing. But going to a shop today and like trying to persuade him, you need to do it. No, it
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
solve the problem because almost no one has Lightning on their phone. Almost no one wants to pay with Bitcoin, and if they try, it's clunky. It doesn't really work yet. The technology is just way too early, way too nascent. So we should not push for adoption too much. I think we should let it pull. And I think the pull factor today, what really does solve a big problem, is one use case for Bitcoin, and that's the store of value use case. Digital gold, just save the money you don't need for a year plus, just save it in Bitcoin, and you will increase your purchasing power as opposed to trying to save it in fiat currency that is devaluing. That's a great use case, and that will find a lot of adoption in the next 10 years. That's also why we, of course, at Relay believe that in the next 10 years, billions of people and trillions of fiat currencies will want to flow into Bitcoin, will exchange Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin because it just makes sense to save your energy and monetary energy in Bitcoin. But for the payment, medium of exchange, unit of account use cases, it will just take much more time. That's a big challenge also for us because stuff like Lightning and payments and
Mm-hmm.
wallets, we have that, but it doesn't really create a better experience, or it's not a problem that is really being solved against like credit cards or stuff like Twint in Switzerland or Venmo, or like
Yeah.
payment apps, still works a bit better, right? It's not better yet, Bitcoin for like these use cases. So and it's because it's so early, it's just a bit inefficient still. The fees, people don't understand why does it take so long to send Bitcoin. Why are the fees so big? What are UTXOs? So this is still there's a lot of education and a lot of product work in the front end and in the back end, like on the core protocol and on the several layers like Liquid, Lightning, etc. Still a lot of work to do. So it's still quite early. Mass adoption is really not possible yet. On it's still early adopters that are adopting the technology now, and for us this is a very challenging thing to navigate. But still, I'm very open. I'm very positive that in the next 10 years, these are technical problems and they will be figured out, and then the adoption is going to come.
Okay. Since you're the last guest for those interviews
Oh
I did,
wow!
the best always comes at the end. So, I always ask that everyone, what do you think of Christine Rakakakakart? What are your thoughts on that bitch?
Whoa!
So,
Look, I don't know her like personally, so I can't and I don't want to judge her. Um, I just think she should retire. I think I think she's quite old. I mean, I think she's like 67,
yeah,
maybe
somewhere around
more,
there.
maybe like 70. So normal people would just retire with like 60, 65. Why is she still trying to like manage this sinking ship of the euro and like fiat currencies? Just give it, yeah, just give yourself a break and like let the next person come. Maybe he or she will do a better job. Yeah, in the end, yeah, I don't really care because, and I think we as Bitcoiners don't need to care. I mean, they are. She is basically part of the Bitcoin marketing team, right?
Yeah,
And she's
yeah.
making so
With
many.
all the memes, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
she's making so many mistakes and she's like making fiat even worse.
is
So
she
Bitcoin
actually?
is even more attractive.
Did she actually block you, or was that just a meme?
Relay, she did block Relay, the Relay
Oh,
account, not
okay.
myself, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
I
she
think
blocked me. So,
probably we talked shit a little bit about. I think
okay.
she blocks a lot of
Bitcoiners.
Bitcoin accounts.
Okay.
Whenever you kind of try to DM her or like try to uh, whenever you try to tag her wherever, she will just block you. And
Okay.
so yeah, it's a good. It was a small win for us.
Okay. Okay. That's it for me. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so
It was
much,
an
and it's a
honor.
great
So,
job.
cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Nomad Podcast.